Imagine spending like 500 hours memorizing the exact intricate schematics of a bicycle.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's a lot of hours.
Right, like you know all the gear ratios, you completely understand the tension of the chain, you can even draw the entire braking system from memory.
So you're basically a bicycle engineer on paper.
Exactly, on paper.
Yeah.
But then the very second you actually swing your leg over the seat and try to pedal, you immediately crash into a mailbox.
Yeah, because knowing how a bike works isn't the same as actually riding one.
Exactly. And that jarring, often really painful disconnect is exactly what most of us experience when we try to master a new skill, especially a new language.
Oh, for sure. It really is the ultimate bottleneck in learning.
Right, because you buy the books, you memorize all the rules, you build up this massive mental database of knowledge.
But then that terrifying moment arrives where you actually have to speak to a real human being.
Yes. And all those perfectly memorized rules just utterly vanish. Poof, gone.
It's the difference between possessing the owner's manual and, actually driving the car on a busy highway.
Which is terrifying. And today, we are looking at that exact critical pivot. We're exploring the incredibly daunting leap from simply knowing something on paper to actually living it in the real world.
And navigating that transition from theory to practice, it requires a completely different psychological approach than the one we usually rely on.
Right, like when we're just acquiring information in a classroom setting. So to figure out how to successfully make that leap, we are pulling from a really fascinating source today.
Yeah, it's a great one.
We're doing a deep dive into excerpts from a guide called Fluent Connections, Everyday English for Partners.
Which is such a specific focus, but the implications are huge.
They really are. And our mission for this deep dive is to basically extract the core framework from this guide. We want to understand how daily, seemingly mundane interactions with a partner or, a close friend are actually the secret blueprint for achieving real functional fluency.
And it's important to point out that while the source uses language learning as lens, the underlying mechanics we'll be discussing are really about habit formation.
Right, exactly. I want to set that tone right out of the gate for you, the listener. While this specific source is heavily focused on learning English, the insights we're going to uncover are universally applicable.
Completely. It's about overcoming the fear of failure and integrating a new skill into your existing daily life.
So it's not just a language thing, it's an everything thing.
Yeah, it's about moving away from treating learning as a separate, isolated academic chore.
Right, because nobody likes chores. So the source actually addresses this fundamental problem right at the very beginning. It identifies a trap that catches, almost every single language learner.
The fluency gap.
The fluency gap. The guide explicitly notes that many English learners know vocabulary and grammar perfectly, but they still don't have the slightest idea how to actually use English in daily conversations.
Because they have all the data, but zero execution.
Exactly. And the core premise the guide lays out is this, and I'm quoting here, real fluency comes from using English naturally during everyday moments.
The guide is drawing a very hard line here between the academic study of a language and the practical application of it.
It's saying they aren't the same thing at all.
Right. It's actively challenging the assumption that fluency is just a static destination you eventually reach if you fill out enough workbooks.
Okay, let's unpack this because I really think it requires a visual. Think about it like baking.
Okay, baking, I'm with you.
Spending all your time learning grammar and memorizing vocabulary lists, but without having daily conversations, is exactly like having all the ingredients for a complex cake perfectly measured out.
Oh, like in those little glass bowls on a cooking show.
Yes. You have the flour, the sugar, the eggs, the vanilla extract in those little bowls on your kitchen counter. You even understand the chemistry of how they're supposed to interact.
But you never actually mix them together.
Never. You don't mix them, and you never turn on the oven. So you have the components of the cake, but you don't have the result. You just have, a really messy counter.
What's fascinating here is the psychology behind why we do that. Why do we stay stuck staring at the ingredients?
Because it's easier.
Partially. The source makes this distinct separation between studying a language and using it because, frankly, studying feels safe.
Oh, that makes sense.
Right. When you are doing grammar exercises in a workbook, you have total control. If you make a mistake, you just erase it.
Nobody sees it. It's completely private.
Exactly. It's a closed environment. But fluency is an active, messy, unpredictable daily practice. When you step out of the workbook and into a real conversation, you completely lose that control.
Because the other person might say something you don't expect.
Always, you are going to stumble. You are going to use the wrong tense. You might feel foolish. The gap between knowing and doing is largely a gap created by the anxiety of imperfection.
Which is why turning on the oven is so scary. Turning on the oven means risking burning the cake.
You're introducing heat and unpredictability.
But if you want the cake, you have to do it. So how does this guide recommend we actually turn on that oven without, burning the house down?
Well, the source provides a daily framework that essentially tricks your brain into starting. And it naturally begins with the morning routine.
Right. By tying the daunting task of, becoming fluent into the existing rhythm of a normal day, the guide lowers the barrier to entry.
It breaks the massive goal into very small, manageable behavioral steps.
So the guide suggests initiating the day by using specific, simple phrases with your partner. Things like, "Good morning, how did you sleep?" or "How are you feeling today?"
Very low stakes.
Yeah, and then it suggests moving naturally into talking about daily plans with phrases like, "What are you doing today?" or "Do you have a busy schedule?" But wait, hold on, I need to push back on this a little bit.
Okay, go for it.
Because these phrases are incredibly, almost laughably basic. How did you sleep? I mean, if my goal is to become truly fluent in a new language, shouldn't I be trying to, translate a news article with my partner over breakfast?
That sounds exhausting.
But shouldn't I be pushing myself with advanced vocabulary or debating economics? Asking someone if they have a busy schedule feels like I'm just running in place.
I completely understand why it looks that way on the surface. It feels totally counterintuitive. We are conditioned to believe that learning has to be difficult to be effective.
Right. No pain, no gain.
But if we connect this to the bigger picture of cognitive load and behavioral psychology, the strategic brilliance of this simplicity becomes really obvious.
Brilliant how? It's literally just saying good morning.
Because it's not about the complexity of the words. It is entirely about breaking the ice of speaking a foreign language out loud.
Okay, I'm listening.
Let's look at cognitive load, which is essentially the amount of mental effort being used in your working memory. If you wake up and think you need to have a complex philosophical debate or analyze a news article in a new language, the cognitive barrier to entry is massive.
Yeah, my brain would just shut down before you even poured the coffee.
Exactly. Your brain looks at that task, registers the high likelihood of failure and exhaustion, and you will likely just choose not to speak at all. You will default to your native language because it is the path of least resistance.
So it's about not scaring yourself off.
Right. By starting the day with low-stakes, routine, friendly questions like, "How did you sleep?" you are completely bypassing the brain's fear response.
So you are basically sneaking the language practice past your own mental defense mechanism.
Precisely. You get an easy win. The learner builds immediate momentum.
Because they're speaking the new language within minutes of opening their eyes.
And they are doing it without the paralyzing fear of making a massive grammatical error. You are establishing the habit of the new language being the default mode of communication for certain interactions.
You aren't being tested. You're just asking a partner how they slept.
And that shifts the entire context of the language from an academic performance to a genuine human connection.
Wow, that reframing is huge. So the morning routine establishes that baseline. You get the easy win, you grease the wheels of the language before the day even really starts.
Exactly.
But then you head to work or you go about your separate lives. The real threat to habit formation is that out of sight, out of mind effect.
Yeah.
So how does the source advise maintaining that linguistic momentum when you aren't physically sitting across the table from each other?
The guide tackles this by introducing what are essentially linguistic tether lines throughout the day.
Tether lines, I like that.
Yeah, it focuses on maintaining connection through simple, asynchronous communication.
Right, the advice here relies heavily on quick messages. Texting or calling to ask things like, "How's your day going?" or "Have you had lunch yet?"
Simple factual check-ins.
And then, crucially, it contrasts those quick midday check-ins with how you should be talking about the day in the evening.
That's where the shift happens.
The guide notes that the evening is designed to share experiences. So the suggested questions shift from facts to feelings. Things like, "What was the best part of your day?" or "How did everything go today?"
And the shift in the type of communication happening there is the core engine of how this framework actually builds fluency.
Here's where it gets really interesting to me. If we look at this daily structure, the morning questions, the midday texts, the evening reflections, it acts almost exactly like a heartbeat monitor on an EKG screen for your language practice.
Oh, that's a great way to visualize it.
Right. The quick midday text asking, "Have you had lunch?" That is a short, sharp pulse. It's just a quick blip on the monitor to keep the language alive in your brain.
It reminds your nervous system that English, or whatever skill you are practicing, is still running in the background of your day.
Exactly. A maintenance pulse prevents the brain from archiving the language. It tells your brain, hey, don't put this away, we still need it.
But then you look at the evening questions. What was the best part of your day? That is a much wider, deeper wave on the monitor.
Because answering that question requires a narrative response.
Exactly. It naturally stretches the learner's vocabulary because they have to explain an event, a sequence of actions, and their emotional reaction to those actions.
It's not just a binary yes or no question anymore.
No, not at all. The guide is doing something incredibly sophisticated here without ever making it feel like work. It systematically escalates the cognitive load as the day progresses.
Like warming up at the gym before you lift heavy.
Exactly. Think about the progression. In the morning, you are dealing with immediate present tense or simple future plans. Did you sleep well? What are you doing today?
Very low cognitive load.
Right. At midday, it's factual check-ins. Did you eat? Again, very low cognitive load. But by the evening, you are transitioning into emotional reflection and narrative storytelling.
Which takes a lot more brain power.
A lot more. Asking someone to share an experience demands far more natural fluency than simply confirming a daily schedule. You have to retrieve vocabulary, sequence events chronologically, and attach emotion to it.
But because you've been warmed up by the morning and midday pulses, you don't feel the sudden shock of that cognitive load.
You're already in the zone.
The source actually provides a really specific role-play example of this evening interaction. In the text, a character named Alex asks his partner, Ava, what was the best part of your day?
And Ava replies, talking with you right now.
It's so sweet, but it also perfectly illustrates the ultimate goal of the source material.
Notice what is absent in that exchange. Ava isn't pausing to think about subject-verb agreement.
She isn't wondering if she is using the correct preposition.
Right, she is simply expressing affection. The language has become transparent. It is doing exactly what language was evolved to do, facilitating human connection.
It's acting as a window rather than a wall. The language is no longer the thing you are looking at. It is the thing you are looking through to see your partner.
The ingredients are finally baked into the cake.
Yes. Which brings us to the culmination of all these sequential steps.
Yeah.
Because the guide doesn't just leave you with these role plays and examples.
It doesn't. It ends with a very specific, actionable challenge aimed at permanently cementing these habits into your life.
Because understanding the flow of the day is passive.
Exactly. It requires intentional action to turn that understanding into a lasting routine.
So the source suggests ending the day with warm, closing phrases like, have a good night, take care, or see you tomorrow. But then it issues the ultimate practice task.
The 5 questions.
Yes, the 5 questions. It challenges the reader to practice 5 daily English questions with someone they talk to regularly. The guide explicitly instructs the learner to ask about their partner's day, their plans, their activities, and their experiences every single day.
And then it closes with this really powerful mantra, which the characters repeat to each other.
English isn't just something you study, it's something you use in your everyday life.
Something you use.
Well,
That is the crux of the entire philosophy, and it fundamentally challenges how most of us approach self-improvement.
so what does this all mean for the person listening to this right now? To me, taking on this 5-question challenge completely shifts the identity of the user.
How so?
Well, when you commit to asking your partner these 5 questions every day, you are actively shedding the identity of a student.
Oh, that's a great point.
You are no longer someone who is studying when you ask your friend about their lunch. You are simply a friend, living your life, and the language is just the vehicle you happen to be driving.
The intense pressure of academic performance completely drops away.
Exactly.
And this raises an important question about how we quantify progress. In traditional learning environments, we measure progress by test scores, by the number of vocabulary words memorized, or by, flawless grammar exercises.
Or the typical classroom stuff.
But the source makes a very different claim. It states that the more daily conversations you have, the faster your confidence will grow.
Notice it doesn't say, the more grammar rules you perfect, the faster your confidence will grow.
Exactly. It emphasizes volume over perfection. It prioritizes the habit of speaking and the emotional connection of the conversation over achieving flawless academic accuracy.
Because flawless academic accuracy doesn't actually exist in the real world anyway.
It really doesn't.
Even native speakers use terrible grammar half the time when they're just, chatting in the kitchen.
Right. Real fluency is about being understood and being able to express your reality, not about passing a written exam. The guide's challenge to ask 5 questions a day ensures that you are getting those reps in.
You are building the procedural memory of the language.
Declarative memory is knowing the rules. Preceditive memory is the actual act of doing it. You are creating a daily environment where the language is required, which forces your brain to adapt.
It pulls those vocabulary words out of cold storage and puts them to active work.
Right. It's the difference between looking at a map of a city and actually walking the streets.
Oh, I love that analogy. You can memorize the map in your bedroom all you want. You can know all the street names
But you won't really know the city until you've walked it.
until you've gotten lost a few times, taken a wrong turn, and had to ask a local for directions. The map is the textbook. The 5 daily questions are you walking the streets?
And ideally, having someone to walk those streets with you makes the process significantly less intimidating.
Which is why the guide's focus on doing this with a partner or a friend is so vital.
It provides a safe harbor for the messy, inherently imperfect process of actually using the skill.
Mm.
When you stumble over a word with a partner, they don't grade you.
No, they just help you find the word.
Exactly. A safe harbor for the messy process.
I love that. So to bring this deep dive all together for you, the listener, the grand takeaway from this source isn't really just about learning English or even just about language in general.
No, it's broader than that.
It's about the fundamental mechanics of mastery. Whether you are trying to learn a language, pick up an instrument, or develop a new professional skill, true mastery does not happen in a vacuum.
It doesn't happen when you are hunched over a textbook in an empty room.
It happens when you weave that skill into the mundane, everyday moments of your daily life. It happens when you stop treating the skill like a precious, fragile thing to be studied on a pedestal and start treating it like a normal tool to be used.
It requires deliberately modifying your environment and your daily habits so that using the new skill becomes the path of least resistance, rather than a monumental hurdle.
So here's our challenge to you, based directly on the source material we unpacked today. Take that 5 questions challenge today.
Do it today.
Find a partner, a friend, a roommate, and ask them 5 simple questions about their day, their plans, or their experiences, using the skill or language you are trying to learn.
Turn on the oven.
Walk the streets.
Mhm.
See what happens when you stop studying and start using.
Let the desire for connection override the fear of making a mistake.
Absolutely. And before we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with one final lingering thought based strictly on the philosophy we explored today.
Okay, lay it on us.
The source emphatically states that a language is something you use every day, not just something you study, and that this low-stakes daily use is the actual engine that builds confidence.
Right.
So, if true confidence and real practical fluency come from simply connecting with another human being over mundane daily routines,
Yeah.
does that mean the traditional way we intensely grade, test, and scrutinize language learners in classrooms is actually paralyzing them?
Wow, that's a huge question.
Is our rigid obsession with academic perfection holding learners back from the very fluency they are desperately trying to achieve? It's just something for you to ponder the next time you find yourself staring at a pile of perfect ingredients, afraid to turn on the heat.